Are you a child of darkness or are you a child of the light? Today we're going to be talking about lost sheep. Are you one of God's chosen sheep that have gone astray and he has pulled you back in to the greatest shepherd of all, that being Jesus Christ? How do we know this wisdom or the answers to these questions? Of course, by diving into the scriptures themselves. John chapter 10 verses 2 to 5. But he who enters by the door is a shepherd of the sheep. To whom the doorkeeper opens, and sheep hears his voice, and he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he brings all his own out, he goes ahead of them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. A stranger, when they never follow, but will flee from him because they do not know the voice of strangers. And how beautiful that is, being a lost sheep of God and him pulling you close into granting you repentance and changing your heart. So if you have to think about it, obviously, we would never respond to a voice of a stranger because we don't know them. And a person who doesn't respond to Jesus is simply not one of Jesus' sheep, the one that he's chosen from the beginning. I want to talk about this fact of being chosen. I made a video about this, as to how we're not all children of God, or are we chosen, if you look at my playlist in the preaching section. But I really want to talk about this and how we are really called to God's will and his divine purpose for us, and not our will or not our purpose. We obviously know that verse where Jesus says that no one can come to the Father unless the Father who sent them draws them to Jesus himself. But draw, that word right there in the Greek, it is heliku, and that means to drag, to pull by force, non-negotiable. That God is like that magnet for us, where he pulls us in, removing us from that wicked lifestyle, choosing us, becoming one of his children, from a lost sheep in the wicked world to becoming one of his children. And that's what's so beautiful about it. Not everyone is a lost sheep, or not everyone's a child of God, and it's all biblical. People who don't respond to the voice of Jesus is simply because the truth doesn't abide in them, and they don't know who God is because God has simply not opened their eyes. So to the people who are living in darkness, children of wrath, as I once was, they look at Jesus as a stranger because they don't know the truth. The truth, it does not abide in them unless God grants them repentance. We look at the scriptures, there was a feast of dedication, and these Jews were talking to Jesus, challenging him if he's really God himself. And look what Jesus says himself. John chapter 10, verses 25 to 27. Jesus answered him, I told you, and you do not believe. The works that I do in my Father's name, they bear witness of me, but you do not believe because you are not of my sheep. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. It's like a wake-up call once you preach the true gospel. Once God calls you, or once God draws you, it's a non-negotiable. You wake up and see the light. The veil that was covering you, living in darkness, being a slave of sin, to do whatever you want, evil deeds. But when God calls you, grants you repentance, gives you a new heart and a new mind to serve him and his purpose, your entire life changes radically. And it's so beautiful because the things that were evil that you recognize for good, you truly recognize it for what it is. And it's disgusting, and it's an abomination, and it's wicked. So you want to serve the Lord and go on to perfection that Jesus does for us once we're raised from the dead, and we live in more of a holy and fulfilling life. We don't choose God, and it's always going to be like that. And I'm glad I did not choose God, because if it was up to me and my free will, as that man-made doctrine we've heard before, I would never choose God. I'm born, as it says in the scriptures, I'm born into wrath, and by nature I'm sinful. I would always continually be an evil person, a child of the devil. I will never be a child of God because I won't call out to him on my own strength. That is not my will, and that is not my plan, to go live a holy lifestyle if I am living in evilness and I am evil. But no, God says otherwise. And God says the same thing for a lot of people, because he calls them to repentance, so that nothing can separate us from the love of God. Not no evil, not Satan himself. No temptation can overcome us because he leads us out of temptation. Or living in the spirit, being fruitful and giving all thanks, all glory, all fear to God, because he has called us out of the wicked lifestyle to serve his divine pleasure, making disciples of all nations. John chapter 15, verse 16. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit, fruit that will last. And so whatever you ask in my name, the Father will give you. Another verse that shows that Jesus pulls us in. The Father sends Jesus to grab his sheep. I want to clear this up. Yeah, we may fall short of perfection of God, but that doesn't give us this license or excuse to live however we want, because it is God who wills us to do good, wills us to bear good fruits, because we don't want to live in the lifestyle. We have that conviction because we know what it does to a person. It destroys someone's entire life. Even though they think they are really happy, deep down inside, they are destroying every single bit of their soul. And that's why only God can redeem your soul and renew your mind and your spirit, giving you a new heart so you can live for Him rather for yourself or your flesh. Thank you for watching this video. If you're new in here for the first time, subscribe, like, comment, push the notification bell, follow all the socials in the link down below the description, and watch one of these videos that YouTube believes that you're going to like, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.